Y'all, remember when Jack Harlow didn't know who Brandy was? Remember when he said he didn't know Ray J had a sister? Remember that? And I would be willing to bet everybody in black culture knows Ray J is Brandy's little brother. But remember when we laughed? Brandy did a remix to his rap and laughed it off and gave him a pass. Remember? But when a white rapper says he got blacker to promote an album, it's not funny anymore. It becomes a loaded conversation. Because what does that even mean? Are we talking about sound, influence, or aesthetics? Or is it something deeper? Something that you don't just step into for convenience. And see, this is where the conversation about Jack Harlow gets awkward. Because this time, fans and Black American culture is not just letting this slide. Now, for me personally, I'm not here to critique the album because I've decided based on principles, I will not be listening to this album. But what I'm here to talk about is number one, the language and aesthetics. Number two, what is the definition of his personal musical direction? And number three, authenticity. And number four, why that statement, I got blacker, didn't sit right with a lot of people, and it definitely doesn't sit right with me. And before anybody tries to convince me that it's not that deep, just know to me, it's that deep. And the mere fact that Twitter and social media also took offense, they've been dragging him online ever since he made that statement, lets you know that it's absolutely that deep. So y'all, here's the backstory. In a recent interview, Jack Harlow was pressed about whether he considered leaning into safer, more traditionally white genres for his new album, Monica. Oh, he wouldn't do something that safe, but then he had the nerve or audacity to say that instead of going that route, he got blacker. Now look, maybe what he meant was that he was leaning more into traditional black influences, but that's not what he said. He said he got blacker. And in this case, language matters. And in all honesty, it's not just about this one comment. It's about who and when certain people get to move through the culture fluently and how. Because words carry weight, history, and intention, whether you mean it or not. Y'all, we know Jack Harlow is a hot mess, but hit that like button and let's keep this conversation going. And this title, Monica, hasn't fully been explained either. Because in certain circles, this word has been flipped, stretched, and used in ways that echo something a lot more disrespectful. And if you're going to elect to play in spaces that include black culture, you shouldn't be that careless. Because even if it's not your intention, you don't get to ignore the impact of how it lands. Because here is where it gets very tricky. Remember, if you're going to say you want to lean more heavily into black musical influences, there has to be some degree of cultural literacy that comes with that. And don't forget, just a few years ago, Jack Harlow didn't even know who the Norwoods were. Now, I'm sorry, but in black culture, everybody knows Ray J is Brandy's little brother. Brandy is Ray J's big sister. Ray J, you know Kim Kardashian, Ray J? Now, I'm sorry, that's black culture. They're foundational and sealed into black culture. Stop playing. That's not a small miss, honey. That's a big cultural gap. So when you go from not even knowing Ray J is Brandy's little brother and then leaning into I got blacker, it's natural. People should question your authenticity and your journey. Because you can't fast track your way into black culture, especially into a culture when one of the most important tickets is a birthright. And speaking of the culture, let's talk about this musical direction. There's some talk about him leaning more into R&B and whether or not this album is more neo-soul. But neo-soul is not just a sound. It's rooted in soul, jazz, and funk. It's a very specific cultural expression. It's not just something that you wake up and decide. It's not just the clothes you decide to put on. It actually comes from lived experiences. So here, there's a definite disconnect with Jack Harlow and his team. And honestly, it feels like an imitation. And as Glasses Malone would say, the new modern day black. His visuals, his styling, his presentation of this album, And this idea that you can just switch up the way you dress suddenly makes you somehow closer to the culture, it would be helpful if someone let Jack Harlow and his team know that authenticity isn't something you can put on in the morning. And that's why the questions started to pop up. No wonder there was immediate backlash. Now guys, I'm Dr. P, ageless hip-hop fan, around the way girl, and hip-hop and R&B sophisticate. And it will be remiss for me to leave this conversation and not talk about the numbers. Okay neighbors, stop a minute, hit the like button, subscribe, and let's get back to Jack Harlow. Early projections of the album are sitting around 19K for first week, which is a noticeable drop from his previous album, Come Home, The Kids Miss You. We, the culture of hip-hop and R&B, know that numbers aren't everything. But what his numbers do say is that with this time, with I'm Getting Blacker comment, is that he's certainly not getting the same grace that he got when he didn't know that Ray J had a big system. And here's the bigger picture. After everything we've seen in hip-hop over the past few years, unlike previous times when misappropriation or appropriating culture had been rewarded, fans are now paying attention and they are hyper aware of attempts to appropriate the culture. Because remember, black culture and black music, including R&B, hip-hop, and rap, is one of the most significant commodities owned by black Americans and one of the most influential forces in global culture. And if it's going to be used, shaped, or monetized, then the people who created it should never be an afterthought. So neighbors, y'all hit me up in the comments. Let me know what y'all think. Tell me if you think Jack Harlow crossed the line. Was this just a misstep by his team, or are y'all rushing out, buying Manissa? And as always, even when you're considering Jack Harlow, keep it hip-hop.